More than 6 million people are domestic workers in Brazil, most of them black women working under precarious conditions. That is the reality shown in the Brazilian documentary Aqui Não Entra Luz, which translates to Light Does Not Enter Here, referencing housemaid rooms in Brazilian houses, a small area with poor lighting where domestic workers sleep. Brazilian filmmaker Caroline Maia, who directs the film, is the daughter of a domestic worker.
I start the film with my story, my experiences with my mother, and through those experiences, I investigate this profession, those places. I didn't have any experience with the housemaid's room when I was a child. That was not part of my reality, neither of my mom's. I got in touch with that place in a more symbolic and violent way as an adult when I was working as a journalist, and my boss mentioned that I should have been sleeping in a housemaid's room in a plantation. That is when I decided to investigate those places and understand how they relate to black women.
Maia's documentary traces the historical comparison between the slave cabins in past slavery plantations in Brazil with the current housemaid rooms, both of them often small, dark areas.
I think those places were designed strategically. Like those are places where unimportant people live. Unimportant in the context of that house, that family. So for them, those are places that don't need comfort. For example, we went to former plantations that have 8 windows in a room in the main house, but the slave's cabin had a tiny window. And that is a pattern that has been replicated until modern architecture.
Então é padrão que segue sendo replicado até a arquitetura moderna.
The film crew traveled across 5 states in Brazil to tell stories of domestic workers who live or have lived in a housemaid's room. The production comes after the Black Lives Matter protests around the world, but also after the death of a 5-year-old Brazilian boy who was the son of a domestic worker. He died after being left alone by his mother's employer, a story that shocked the country. Maia says crowdfunding the documentary broadens the drive against racism.
Speaking up about racism is not only a black people responsibility, it is a shared responsibility. It has to be shared with white people as well. That crowdfunding is an invite to white people to join the anti-racist fight and use their economic power to do something for the fight against racism.
Crowdfunding has already raised more than $20,000 to complete the film. Bárbara Ferreira Santos, VOA News, Washington.